Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka takes place this Saturday in the main event of UFC 295, and this fight is so much fun, and in my opinion, this is actually the best fight in the entire UFC. I know not everyone's going to agree with me because they have their own style of fights that they like to watch and their own fighters that they like to support, but personally, I love the fact that both these guys are warriors, super fun striking styles, have a lot of power, and are never in boring fights. Jiri Prochazka, to me, is the most entertaining fighter on the entire roster. This guy always gets clipped, he always gets put into deep waters, and then he comes back and wins in a very dramatic fashion. In the Volkan Oezdemir fight, he was clipped like 2 times in the first round, a little bit in round 2 as well, and he comes back and gets an absolutely brutal knockout victory. And then in the Dominic Reyes fight, this guy, he was in a close fight, round 1, he did get round 1, but it was an absolute barn burner of a round. And then round 2 comes around, he gets clipped massively, almost gets out of there, survives, initiates some grappling, gets it back up to the feet, and lands one of the most brutal knockouts we've seen in a long time, and it altered the career of Dominic Reyes from then moving on. He now gets KO'd to jabs from a Ryan fucking Spann. Now, the Glover Teixeira fight was also an absolute banger, and he survived some of the craziest positions you can be put in against a Glover Teixeira. Glover Teixeira is in full mount, landing massive ground and pound, and Jiri Prochazka wills his way back up to the feet, wills his way to the next round. He's got a massive cut in his eye, and he dogs his way out to a 5th round submission after getting clipped horribly in the 5th round. I thought he was out on his feet. If Glover Teixeira doesn't pull that guillotine, I think Glover Teixeira can finish that on the feet. But you never know with Jiri Prochazka because he always wills his way to victory, and he always survives these massive shots that land and should get him out of there. He has a very unorthodox striking style with a lot of power. He is so explosive. In my opinion, he is the most powerful and explosive light heavyweight, and he has a fucking solid chin. What is there not to like about this guy? He doesn't really talk all that much shit because he's a super stoic guy. He's in the warrior mentality, and he displays it in the octagon. He has all these unorthodox shots, and he has very good straight punches, which is why I really do worry for Alex Pereira. I will be picking Alex Pereira, but Jiri Prochazka can absolutely land it straight down the pipe. He can absolutely bring the pressure to Alex Pereira. As we haven't seen Alex Pereira be pressured all that much in the UFC, a little bit more in kickboxing, which I'll get to in just one second. But Alex Pereira has been clipped with these straight shots against Israel Adesanya. In the kickboxing scene as well by Israel Adesanya. Alex Pereira is also very open to counter shots, but Jiri Prochazka doesn't really have the greatest counter shots. Jiri Prochazka has all these weird angles, and I could see him feinting a level change, throwing a flying knee, clipping Alex Pereira, feinting a fucking level change, throwing a jab, throwing a straight right, clipping Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira can't slip out on the outside or inside quick enough because Jiri Prochazka's hands are quick, and they are dynamite there, bro. I'm telling you, Jiri Prochazka can absolutely shock the world and knock out Alex Pereira in round 1. If the fight goes late, he has the better cardio. But if it does go late, I do think Alex Pereira will be chewing up the legs, and Jiri Prochazka will be limping probably around that time. I don't think Jiri Prochazka is going to go for the takedowns, but if he does, he's explosive and athletic enough to get them, in my opinion. And this is coming from a guy that loves Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira is my favorite fighter. My second favorite fighter happens to be Jiri Prochazka, so I do believe I have a very good read on this fight because I have watched all the film there is to watch. Alex Pereira, great kickboxer, fantastic leg kicks, and I think that will be a big factor into this fight because Jiri Prochazka, super heavy on his lead leg, and when he pressures forward, the leg kicking defense is not there. It just isn't. If you kick his legs, it's going to land, and he's been clipped by it on the regional scene. He's been clipped by it a little bit against Volkan Oezdemir, Dominic Reyes, and even a little bit by Glover Teixeira. It never ended up being the super big factor because none of his opponents really went back to it time and time again, and they didn't have as effective leg kicks as Alex Pereira, who I think is the best leg kicker in the UFC. He faced the best leg checker in the entire UFC in Jan Blachowicz, and he fucked up his legs. It's just the way that he throws kicks, they're non-telegraphed, and no one can see it coming. Even Israel Adesanya, his legs were fucking on-wobbly. They're wobbling out. He was almost getting the weird nerve thing that Sean O'Malley got against Marlon Vera, he was saying in the first fight in MMA, and then in the second fight as well, you could see his leg was starting to give. I do also want to touch on the narratives that Alex Pereira has overrated power and that he's bad off the back foot with these counters. Alex Pereira does not have overrated power. He didn't land clean on Jan Blachowicz, and the only time he landed a clean left hook, it wasn't full power. He didn't really turn his hips, and it wasn't as quick and snappy as we're used to seeing. And we have seen Alex Pereira adapt a more cautious game plan early against Israel Adesanya and a little bit against Sean Strickland as well. In the Jan Blachowicz fight, he was obviously taken down early, so I'm not going to include that here. But he likes to start out with the leg kicks, be a little bit more cautious until he can get a read on his range, get a read on the counters and stuff like that before he really goes out there looking for the knockout shot. But I think he's going to start out with a cautious fierce leg kicking game while he's making reads on the range of Jiri Prochazka, making reads on the unorthodox strike, stay out of the way of his weird flying knee, trying to maybe time a counter off of that when Jiri Prochazka lands, maybe trying to time a left hook while Jiri Prochazka is overextending on his straight punches. But Alex Pereira knows of the danger. He's talked about it. I haven't watched all the interviews, but he keeps saying this fight's going to be a war. Yuri's a gamed opponent. He's got a lot of power, but I like the tricks that I have up in my bag. And the leg kicks are going to be his best weapon in this matchup, in my opinion, because he will slow down the fight early. Pereira's getting the read. Pereira's just trying to stay safe early. And once the leg kicks really start doing damage, he's going to find the knockout. And to counter the narratives that Alex Pereira has overrated power and is bad off the back foot, I want to bring up the fight with him and Donegui Abena in kickboxing, where he was able to flatline KO Donegui Abena in round 3 off a counter off the back foot. And if you don't know who Abena is, he's the current Glory light heavyweight kickboxing champion who has recently found a lot of success now that Pereira has moved out of the UFC. Donegui Abena is super good. He was in a very close decision with Artem Vakatov. He ended up losing it. But some people even thought he won that fight. Donegui Abena is a guy who pressures forward, has power in the hands, and he has a very good chin as well. I would need to mention that because I went through his Tapology records. I went through his Glory kickboxing records, and he hadn't been KO'd once in his career from what I saw. Alex Pereira was the first guy to do it. He cracked the chin, and Donegui Abena since then hasn't been KO'd, and he's taking on the top of the top opponents in kickboxing. Donegui Abena pressured forward, didn't respect the power of Alex Pereira. As he said multiple times in the build-up, his power's not going to translate. And this was a Pereira that was moving directly up from middleweight up to light heavyweight without putting on any size. That's what Alex Pereira was saying in the build-up. Alex Pereira since then has put on a lot more muscle mass. That is clear to see. And it was with bigger gloves than it is in MMA. We have seen time and time again kickboxers move into MMA and they hit harder because it is smaller gloves and just the way that the padding is distributed, it allows them to get more pop on their shots. So Alex Pereira arguably might even have more power than he did at the light heavyweight division in Glory Kickboxing, but Alex Pereira was in his prime there, to be fair. But that counter was beautiful, man. And I honestly do believe, since the UFC octagon is much bigger, and it is an octagon shape, it's not a ring where you can cut someone off, he will be able to circle and find these leg kicks much easier than he did in the Donegui Abena fight, because he did struggle in the Donegui Abena fight as well, but he did win the first 2 rounds. The second round was very close. You could probably go Abena in that round as well. But that fight was fucking a great performance for him. And he was so big. I think people forget that Alex Pereira probably will mog Jiri Prochazka, if we're being honest. He is so fucking big for the division. He mogged Jan Blachowicz. This guy is tall as a fucking heavyweight, right? I think he's taller than Cyril Gane, basically, bro. He is massive. He carries a lot of power. He's put on size. He's not cutting all that much weight. I really do like that out of him. And his cardio is not going to look as bad as it did in Salt Lake City because of the elevation, and that was a sloppy performance out of Jan Blachowicz and Alex Pereira. And if that is not at elevation, and Alex Pereira lands a full power left hook on Jan Blachowicz's chin, Jan Blachowicz is going down. He's taking a nap, man. And let's address the elephant in the room, which is Jiri Prochazka's striking defense. It is very clear that this guy has some of the worst defense at the top of any division. He gets clipped everywhere. Most of the time you'll see people with lackluster striking defense, and I call them hittable, is when they're going in, they're exchanging in the pocket, and they leave their chin up, and their defense really is dropped. Jiri Prochazka isn't just hittable in these brawling exchanges. He's hittable when an opponent is pressuring him. He's not able to circle very well. And he's also very hittable when he's crashing in on opponents. He's very susceptible to counters. This guy's hittable everywhere. It doesn't matter if he's pressuring. It doesn't matter if he's getting pressured. It doesn't matter if he is in the pocket. This guy will get hit. And Pereira is a guy that's going to tap the leg kicks, wait for Jiri Prochazka to come in. And he's going to counter him with the left hook, I think. I think it's going to look very similar to the Donegui Abena KO, except Jiri Prochazka is still going to be out on his feet. We're going to find him up against the cage, and the finishing sequence is going to look very similar to how Pereira finished it in the first fight against Israel Adesanya. And honestly, I just rewatched the film, and I can't unsee how open at counters he is. When he pressured forward against King Mo, which he's going to pressure forward against Alex Pereira, King Mo timed a very good right hand, I believe, and it flatlined Jiri Prochazka. From my understanding, that was a very short notice fighter, something weird where he fought very recently, and he took some damage before, but still, it's there. Jiri Prochazka runs forward, his chin is in the air, and Alex Pereira is underrated off the back foot. I could be wrong. Jiri Prochazka absolutely can make this a war. He can get this in the pocket, and if he gets Alex Pereira up against the cage, I get scared as a motherfucker, but I think Alex Pereira really will bring the leg kicks to him, use that as the #1 weapon to keep himself at range and time the counters and the overextensions from Jiri Prochazka, such as that stupid fucking flying knee he throws, and when he doesn't throw it against the cage, it is so fucking risky because he'll throw it out in open space and just Alex Pereira can rotate out to the side and time a perfect left hook as he lands. Rotate to the other side, land a perfect right hook. It's so open to getting fucking countered. He throws it so far out of range, it's not going to fucking land. Sometimes he throws it, and I'm thinking, throw it against the cage. That's when it landed against Glover Teixeira once or twice, because Glover Teixeira would have to circle out to the right or left, and he's got the cage to oppose his will with where he wants to go, if that makes sense. The cage cuts him off a little bit. And I know a lot of people are going to tell you Alex Pereira's striking defense is horrible. I honestly don't think it's as bad as people will tell you. And I think that because Alex Pereira only gets clipped very badly when he's pressuring his opponents and really looking for the finish. That happened twice against Israel Adesanya, and then it was also apparent in the Bruno Silva fight where he was chasing the finish, being a little bit too reckless for me, but he didn't really respect the power of Bruno Silva the way he would respect the power of a Jiri Prochazka. He's not going to entertain these brawling exchanges, and Jiri Prochazka hasn't really shown that he has very good counter-striking. Israel Adesanya, fantastic counters, and he has a super, super quick straight right. And he landed it multiple times against Alex Pereira, and like I said, Jiri Prochazka does have very good straight punches, but he doesn't really have very good counter straights, if I'm being honest. And his greatest form of counterpunching, in my opinion, is taking one to give one. He likes to initiate these brawling exchanges where he lands one after the opponent lands on him, and I don't think Alex Pereira is going to be dumb enough to entertain the brawling, the really close striking exchanges. He has the tools with his massive fucking leg kicks, his great reach. He's going to mog Jiri. He's going to keep him at range for the first round and a half. Then round 2 is going to come around. He's going to find the range. He's going to be calculating all of these different angles that he can potentially find the left hook, find these different strikes on Jiri Prochazka's unorthodox strikes, and he's going to KO him at the end of round 2 after he counters a straight right hand from Jiri Prochazka. Got to go on the Pereira side for the factors that I mentioned. I think people are just kind of looking a little bit too much into the fact that Alex Pereira's striking defense is horrible and not really looking into the fact that Alex Pereira has the game plan and has the tools to just outclass Jiri Prochazka. And I know Jiri Prochazka is super explosive, but Alex Pereira has dealt with very explosive opponents in the middleweight division and the light heavyweight division at kickboxing. I really do think the Denegi Abena performance was very impressive. Like I said, we're going with Alex Pereira, round 2 KO. As always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.